Somewhere on a range in Georgia, a soldier is being taught to slow down his own heartbeat. 400 meters away sits a steel plate the size of a dinner plate, and between him and that plate, there is wind, there is heat, there is gravity, and there is his own pulse. The United States military owns 7 answers to that problem. A German rifle that lives inside an ordinary rifle squad. A bolt gun built on the same action the FBI trusts with hostage lives. A rifle that changes calibers the way you change a battery. And a .50 caliber that does not just stop men, it stops engines. This is every sniper rifle the U.S. military actually uses. Hollywood has spent 40 years selling you the wrong picture of a sniper. The lone wolf on a rooftop, the single dramatic shot. The reality is quieter, slower, and far more interesting. An American military sniper almost never works alone. He works as half of a 2-man instrument, a shooter and a spotter. And on most missions, the most valuable thing that team sends back is not a bullet. It is a report, grid coordinates, vehicle counts, patterns of life. Before a sniper is ever a trigger finger, he is the best pair of eyes his commander owns. And the United States does not have one kind of sniper. It has 3 layers of them. At the bottom, inside every ordinary infantry squad, there is a designated marksman, a regular soldier with a precision rifle, and a mandate to reach further than everyone around him. Above him are the school-trained snipers, the graduates of some of the most brutal selection courses in the military, working in small teams at battalion level. And above them are the special operations snipers, SEALs, Green Berets, Marine Raiders, men who treat 1,000 meters as a starting point. Each layer carries different steel, and that is what this video is about. 7 rifles, 3 services, 1 job, and a roster that is right now living through its biggest upheaval in a generation, because the Army is retiring legends, and a single modular rifle is quietly taking 3 separate thrones. We will climb the ladder the way the Army does, from the rifle in the squad all the way up to the .50 caliber that ignores walls. By the end, you will know not just what America's snipers carry, but why every single one of these rifles earned its place. Start at the bottom of the ladder, because the bottom is where the shooting actually happens. An ordinary infantry squad fights most of its battles inside 300 meters. The problem is that the enemy does not agree to those terms. A machine gun on a ridgeline at 600 meters can pin an entire squad flat while their carbines wave at it. For years, the Army's answer was to call someone else. The new answer is to put the reach inside the squad itself. That answer is the M110A1, the squad-designated marksman rifle. And its accent is German. Heckler & Koch built it on the bones of the G28, the hardened marksman rifle German forces carried in Afghanistan, itself a descendant of the HK-417. Chambered in 7.62 NATO, driven by a short-stroke piston that keeps running filthy, wearing a variable optic and ready for a suppressor. The Army began fielding it to regular squads in the last few years, 1 per squad, in the hands of a soldier who is very deliberately not called a sniper. He does not stalk. He does not hide for days. He walks, patrols, and fights like every other rifleman in the squad. He just sees 600 meters further than they do. The Army even wrote the philosophy into the optic, a variable scope that dials down to 1 power for room distance and up to 6 for the ridgeline, because this rifle has to live in both worlds on the same patrol. Think of the M110A1 as the squad's longer arm and the first rung on America's precision ladder. And notice what the Army just admitted by issuing it. The age of the 400-meter battlefield is over, and every squad now needs at least 1 man who can argue with a ridgeline. 1 layer up, the rifles stop belonging to the squad and start belonging to specialists. And getting into that layer is its own war. The Army's sniper course at Fort Benning runs 7 weeks, and the skill that washes most candidates out is not marksmanship. It is stalking. Candidates in ghillie suits are given hours to cross open ground toward instructors who are actively hunting them with optics, fire 2 blank rounds from concealment, and vanish. Get spotted once at any point, and the exercise is a failure. Some classes lose half their students to that single event. The military is not being theatrical. It is teaching the core truth of the trade. The shot is the easy part. Existing 300 meters from a man who is looking for you, that is the profession. The rifle that defines that second layer was born in a very specific kind of war. Iraq, mid-2000s, cities, not valleys. Multiple targets, seconds apart, at ranges where a scoped bolt gun becomes a bottleneck because a bolt gun asks you to break your firing position between every shot. The Army wanted a sniper rifle that could shoot like a rifle squad, thinks fast. Knight's Armament gave them the M110, the semi-automatic sniper system, 7.62 NATO, a 20-round box magazine, and a detail that tells you everything about where sniping was heading. It was the first Army sniper rifle designed from day one around its suppressor, not as an accessory, as part of the weapon. A trained shooter can put a second precise round on a second target in under 2 seconds and do it without a signature that gives away the hide. The M110 turned the American sniper team from a single-shot instrument into something that could dominate a street fight, and its DNA is all over everything that came after. There is also a quieter detail worth knowing. Because it is semi-automatic, the spotter's job changes. He is no longer just calling wind for one careful shot. He is managing a shooter who can service an entire vehicle checkpoint's worth of targets without moving. Iraq did not just give the Army a new rifle. It gave the sniper team a new tempo, and the teams never gave it back. But to understand the soul of Army sniping, you have to go back to 1988 to a bolt-action rifle called the M24. The Army built it around the Remington 700 Action. And if that name sounds familiar, it should. It is the same action the FBI builds its hostage rescue rifles around. The same click, the same lineage. But the Army did one thing in 1988 that looked like over-engineering and turned out to be prophecy. They ordered the M24 with a long action, a receiver physically larger than its 7.62 cartridge needed. Somebody somewhere was betting that one day the Army would want more power without wanting a new rifle. 20 years later, Afghanistan cashed that bet. The valleys of Kunar and Helmand rewrote the arithmetic of sniping. Engagements stretched past 1,000 meters, and 7.62 NATO simply runs out of breath around 800. So the Army did something almost unheard of in modern procurement. Instead of buying a new rifle, it sent its M24s back to Remington and had them rebuilt. New chassis, folding stock, suppressor. And a new heart, .300 Winchester Magnum, a cartridge that holds its supersonic breath out past 1,200 meters. The result was the M2010 enhanced sniper rifle, the same 1988 action, finally doing the job it was secretly sized for. The soldiers you see running sniper qualification ranges today are living off a bet placed before most of them were born. And the M24 itself did not simply vanish. It served from Panama in 1989 through Desert Storm, the Balkans, and 2 decades of Iraq and Afghanistan before handing over its own receiver for the rebuild. Very few weapons get to retire by becoming their own successor. The M24 did. If you are the kind of viewer who stays for barrel twists and procurement bets, this channel was built for you. Subscribing is one tap, and it tells us to keep going. And now the throne itself is changing. Because the Army looked at its armory, an M201, oh here, an M107 there, 3 different rifles for 3 different jobs, and asked a very expensive question. Why not one rifle that does all of it? The answer is the Mk-22 Advanced Sniper Rifle, built on the Barrett MRAD. The Mk-22 does something no standard-issue American sniper rifle has ever done. it changes calibers. Swap the barrel and the bolt. Minutes, not months. And the same rifle fires 7.62 NATO for training, .300 Norma Magnum for reach past 1,500 meters, or .338 Norma Magnum for targets hiding behind things. One chassis, 3 personalities. Army, Marine Corps, and Special Operations Command are all bringing it in, and it is slated to replace both the M2010 and part of the M107's job. The sniper of the next decade packs 1 case where his teacher packed 3. And there is a logistics story hiding inside that case. 1 rifle means 1 set of spare parts, 1 armorer's course, 1 manual, 1 supply chain, across the entire force. The Mk-22 is not just a better rifle. It is the Pentagon admitting that the best weapon system is sometimes the one that simplifies the war behind the war. Special Operations, meanwhile, has spent 2 decades trusting a quieter classic. The Mark 13 Mod 7 is not built by a corporation's marketing department. It is assembled at Crane, the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Indiana, that hand-tunes weapons for SEALs and Raiders. And here is the pattern again. At its core sits a Remington 700 long action, 300 Winchester Magnum, an Accuracy International chassis wrapped around it like a bespoke suit. SEAL snipers carried it through the later years of Afghanistan, and in 2018, the Marine Corps made a decision with real weight in it. The Mark 13 Mod 7 would replace the M40, the rifle Marine Scout snipers had carried in one evolving form since Vietnam. Half a century of tradition retired by a rifle that simply reached 400 meters further. Marines do not retire legends lightly. Scout snipers argued about that decision in barracks across the Corps. But the argument ended the way arguments with ballistics always end. The M40 was a 300-meter shorter conversation, and the enemy had stopped showing up that close. That is how good this one is. And then there is the rifle that refuses to respect cover at all. In the early 1980s, a Tennessee photographer named Ronnie Barrett, no engineering degree, no defense contract, no factory, decided to build a shoulder-fired rifle around the .50 caliber Browning machine gun cartridge. The industry laughed. Then the military bought thousands. The M107 is the descendant of that garage project. Semi-automatic, 10 rounds of .50 BMG, effective past 1,800 meters. But calling it a sniper rifle almost misses the point. The Army classifies it as an anti-materiel rifle. Its targets are engine blocks, radar cabinets, generators, parked aircraft. A .50 caliber round arrives at a full mile, carrying more energy than a .44 Magnum has at the muzzle. Where every other rifle in this video asks where the man is hiding, the M107 asks a colder question. What is he hiding behind? Soldiers who carry it will tell you the recoil is strangely gentle. A massive muzzle brake and a spring-buffered barrel soak up the violence. But nothing downrange would ever call this rifle gentle. In Afghanistan, M107 teams routinely ended firefights that were happening well outside the range of everything else on the ground. When the 50 speaks, the conversation is usually over. 7 rifles, then. A German marksman rifle in every squad. A semi-auto that learned to fight in cities. A bolt-action Dynasty built on a 30-year-old bet. A modular rifle swallowing 3 thrones. A hand-built classic from Crane, and a .50 caliber born in a garage. But here's the number that actually matters. A school-trained sniper fires fewer rounds in combat than almost anyone else on the battlefield, and changes more outcomes per round than anyone in history. The military did not build these 7 rifles to shoot more. It built them to promise something. One shot, measured twice, 1,000 meters of physics solved before the trigger breaks. The rifles keep the promise. The men make it. And the next chapter is already loading. The Mk-22 will spend the coming decade swallowing rolls, Cartridges will keep stretching past what this generation calls extreme range. And somewhere at Fort Benning, right now, a candidate in a ghillie suit is learning to move slower than the grass around him. The hardware will keep changing. The profession will not. If you want to see where two of these actions serve in federal hands, the FBI's arsenal is on your screen right now. Same bloodline, different badge.